I'm here with Thomas Tighe, President and CEO at Direct Relief, a nonprofit humanitarian organization that provides emergency medical assistance and disaster relief. Direct Relief is a four-star rated nonprofit on Charity Navigator, and just a quick reminder, that is the highest possible rating. Thomas, I know you and your team work in more than 80 countries around the world, and so I'm very interested to hear how Direct Relief is responding to the conflict in Ukraine.
Well, thanks, Kevin. I think one of those countries is Ukraine, and has been for several years. So I think what we've been doing is, what Direct Relief does. We're accredited as a drug distributor. The principal resource that we provide is medical material, when possible, financial resources as well. So in Ukraine, we've had a relatively stepped up effort over the past 6 months, mainly devoted to COVID. In part related to some of the specialized medications that were requested and we delivered 2 weeks ago, in response to a request for some cancer therapies and some cardiovascular issues, working closely through the Ministry of Health where we have a good contact. So I think what we've been doing is trying to key off of the information that's available based on the experience we've had, and working with one of the NGOs locally that, we've been working with for 7 years, that basically is a smaller version, intra-Ukrainian version of what Direct Relief does, trying to mobilize specialized resources that fill the gaps that exist in every country, including the US. So I think it's just changed fundamentally from being able to deliver a specialized medication directly to Kyiv 2 weeks ago to now a full-blown war, massive displacement of people, bombing hospitals, and kind of a huge flow of people both within and outside of Ukraine. So it's been a scramble to kind of respond to kind of the urgent requests for broad-based, trauma and acute care items, which we've been able to do in this week twice, and then trying to line up. We have big medical inventories in Europe already, and so we think we'll be able to kind of make arrangements, with the big unknown being, where it's going to go. Will it be secure? Where are people moving to, and predicting, we know generally how these things shake out, but not specifically, this huge army in a shooting war with mass casualties that are being reported. So it's still early. I mean, how fundamentally it's changed, but I think we're going to try to stick to what we're well suited to do, what we've done in Ukraine, working with people in Ukraine who are the right people, we believe, and key off of those express needs and try to do the best we can as we do.
Of course, and really appreciate you walking us through that. And I think that, what I'm hearing there is that just the importance of partnership and your long established roots within the country and surrounding areas. And I think that, what I'm hearing is, when I'm connecting with different folks in the media, is that, there's this strong interest of wanting to give directly to the individuals in the ground, and like these personal fundraisers popping up. And so just curious as to your view of supporting an established, trusted international relief organization, and your capabilities over giving in that other type of way.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful. It's a wonderful sentiment to want to help in the most direct way possible, which I think we all have. I think for directly, if we're conscious of what we do, what we're accredited to do, kind of the lane we play in, that's hard enough. Handling prescription drugs internationally, they're all grants, but there's high degree of regulatory compliance that Direct Relief has to deal with, including in the US. So for us in general, when money's available and there's a local group, it's relatively easy because you have to approve someone to receive a prescription drug donation. It's heavily controlled. We do have a chance to provide financial support if it becomes available, which we've done extensively. We've made over $100 million in just straight financial grants over the past 24 months. But I think in this unfolding situation, the highest value that groups can do is do what they do well, make sure they're invited and not in the way. And it's unusual for everybody to kind of try to step up so rapidly in Ukraine. But I think the sentiment to get money directly to people, it's hard for a US charity. We have to go through all the Patriot Act, anti-money laundering, kind of OFAC checks for every shipment we make, which is technically a grant of stuff. So I think that is a very good discipline, which we've gone through in COVID, to be a channel for financial support to properly registered EU charitable organizations that we've probably provided in the past year $5 or $6 million in direct financial assistance to local groups. But it's basically the same principles that exist to support the 501c3. You look it up, it has to be registered, you check the reputation. There's not a Charity Navigator globally, right? Because each country has its particular registration requirements. And under IRS rules, it has to be a 501c3 equivalent with deductibility status. So that's, it gets fairly detailed. So as much as I'm all for it, and I think if people have family and friends or relatives, go for it. That's obviously always a fair and good thing to do. At scale, it's just important to recognize the risks involved, the laws involved. And so that's, I think, what we're trying to focus. We have to do that just because of the nature and the highly regulated nature of prescription medications, which we do extensively.
Absolutely. And I think one of the beauties of your organization is the fact that, people do like giving tangible things. And in an instance where they can't give those tangible things, they can support an organization that is giving life-saving medication to people that really need it. So appreciate all that you're doing. For those that are watching, just curious as to, what's the different ways that they can interact with Direct Relief and support the good work that you're all doing?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is just, we'll be clear, I think, on as the events unfold, we'll do our best to be current on current information. Direct Relief has a number of kind of niche channels of information. We work with the Society of Critical Care Medicine. They have 800 intensivists who are working in Ukraine and the bordering countries. So that information that comes in provides a lens for us, and that is the basis of our action. So I think as we do that, we have daily contacts with the Ministry of Health that have been ongoing now. We worked with them before. It's so fluid. I mean, with Kyiv under siege and kind of the corridors through which everything needs to flow to be secure, it's 9 or 10 days in, and it's gone from normal to completely of historic proportions, a horrible unfolding humanitarian tragedy. So not only in Ukraine, but in the pressure that is likely to result from the projected outflow of up to 5 million people, which is more than 3 times as many Syrian refugees, that really created a significant challenge of absorption and accommodation and support for a number of European countries. So it's early days, it's ongoing, but I think clearly help is needed. Governments play a huge role. The UN has got to play a huge role. It's why they exist. But I think the need for philanthropic support is important. And I think from Direct Relief's perspective, I'm confident we already have hundreds of millions of dollars of medical inventories in Europe, but it doesn't matter if they aren't the right ones and they don't get to the people who in the place where they're going to be used. So I think the complexity in each lane, whether it's refugees or feeding or kind of resettlement or social support, different groups do that. And I think it seems like even if the fighting stopped today, it's still already a major humanitarian crisis affecting millions of people in the winter, with high rates of COVID, high rates of HIV, high rates of multi-drug resistance TB. So today we're aware of some of that, but have mobilized and purchased a number of oxygen concentrators that we've been doing for the past 2 years. So I think the big picture is unclear, but it's sobering. So we're trying to take those clean shots and lean in where we can as fast as we can, because it is an unfolding emergency.
Absolutely. And thank you for walking us through the compounding nature. I mean, it's just so incredibly insightful, and so needed, the work that you're all doing. So just incredibly appreciative for everything that you're doing, and for taking a couple of minutes out of your extremely busy day to connect with me. And definitely encourage everyone that's watching to really consider, opening your heart, opening your wallet to a highly rated organization like Direct Relief. The need is great, and you can make a difference.
Well, thanks a lot, Kevin. My pleasure, and really appreciate what you're doing to inform consumers to make well-informed decisions. I think no group can do it all, or should try. And so I think it's helpful to have inform people what their money actually does. And for us, it's important that it's clear that there's, we're duty bound to follow the donor's intent. It's important in that regard to make sure there's an opportunity for donors to express that intent. And I think that the emotionality that comes up sometimes does bring out some bad tendencies to just use a human tragedy as a fundraising, which I think is unseemly and we don't do. So we'll try to keep doing what we are well suited to do, and applaud everyone who's doing other things that they're well suited to do.
It's absolutely right. I often say, tragedies can bring out the best in people, but they can sometimes bring out the worst. And that's why we're always pointing people to, trustworthy nonprofits that have a proven track record and have the networks to be able to actually make a difference. So Thomas, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate you very much. Thanks, Kevin.